I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to SpiderMan and the Secret Wars. Prepare for Prattle.
Welcome, Al Ewing.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
How are you enjoying the convention so far?
I'm liking it. I'm always a big fan of these kind of like free cons where people can just bring the kids and they're in libraries. It's sort of introducing people to the world of comics, and I kind of like that. I do prefer those to the sort of more, with all the actors and all that.
Yeah, so more like TV and...
Yeah, the ones that are more sort of, my girlfriend calls them merch barns.
Merch barns, yeah, you're right.
Ones that are a bit more of that nature. I'm obviously very happy to be here, and
yes.
I'm having a good time.
Fantastic.
A good time meeting people.
And Oldham Comic Con is all about comics are for everybody, cons are for everybody, people from all walks of life, every background you can think of. What would you say to people who don't believe that?
You mean the fash? Go away.
Go away. I think that's a good answer. Go away. You put it in the most polite way possible, I think, as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think it's one facet of if we're going to get political for a second, it's one facet of a larger problem where, like, almost the entirety of pop culture and the entirety of culture is being sort of attacked by the far right now as a kind of battleground. And comics are just one facet of that. So you see all this stuff happen and you think, oh, it's a comics problem, but it's an everything problem, it's an everywhere problem. And I don't really know how we're going to deal with it aside from just stand our ground and kind of say, no, actually, this is open to everybody. Come along, you're all welcome. This is a problem that, I can't come up with a magic solution for you.
No, definitely not.
I think we all just have to kind of pull together.
So I just want to ask, going back to your childhood, where do you remember your first comic that you ever picked up?
It would have probably been Buster. Yeah, because it wasn't, the Beano was sort of there, but even there was always a bit like, it didn't, at the time it wasn't so appealing, it didn't kind of reach out. And I think the art in Buster, which was the IPC thing, that was a lot more vibrant. It was a lot more, it felt more chaotic, it felt more kind of interesting at the time. I would have been like so small, I wouldn't have thought in those terms, but from there it was a very quick jump to 2000 AD. And because that was kind of, and again, you were going to the newsagent for your comics, so this was like what was on the shelves. It was what was like, it had kind of, my big brother would sort of bring stuff back into the house, and so that was kind of how I saw 2000 AD. And again, this stuff grabs you as a kid, just like the level of, just that quite visceral level. Because 2000 AD was like,
it's very full on, isn't it?
It's very full on. It's really like, at the time, it was like 4 8 to 12s in that way, that like that slightly subversive way.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I understand.
It's something that your parents won't really approve of, and that's kind of a big thing for kids. Definitely. It's like something that's sort of theirs, and it's just like absolute trash. And that was that. I love that. The whole thrill power thing. The whole like this kind of shorthand for this sort of visceral electric thrill that you get from like something like Judge Dredd.
Yeah, it was like something you shouldn't be reading at that age, and you knew that. It's like those horror films you would see as a kid. You're like, I shouldn't really be seeing this, but I like it. Yeah, I really like it.
And I kind of got on board 2000 AD at exactly the right time, because it sort of grew up with me. In that when I was like 16, it was aiming itself at 16-year-olds, and and so on and so forth. And now it's aimed at grown-ups, and technically, I am one. But at the same time, roughly the same time, this was all sort of. I look back on this, and it was like, I feel like it was almost all happening at once. It would have been like in roughly the same year. But like Marvel UK reprinted Secret Wars, which was, DC weren't doing any reprints like this at the time. But Marvel UK, they had their SpiderMan comic, which was like, I think it just started reprinting Spidey Super Stories, so it had taken a massive nosedive in terms of the age level it was aimed at. So it wasn't for me anymore. But then I think they started reprinting Secret Wars, and that's the great comic where all of the Marvel superheroes stand in a line and say their own names. And that is like, thank goodness, because and then all of the Marvel supervillains do the same thing. They're on their own. They're in their own line, saying their own names, and it's like you look back, and it's like this is the most awkward thing ever. But at the time, this was my first Marvel comic. It was really useful.
Yeah, well, if you're not familiar with those characters, that universe,
and nobody was.
No, and Secret Wars for me was a big part of that. I know it was produced primarily to sell toys.
Yeah,
which is why they list all their names.
I had the toys.
Yeah, of course you did.
I got the toys.
Who did?
I remember making like a trek to Kingston. That was where you could find
a whole set. Everything.
Yeah. Well,
I think there was even characters that were even in Secret Wars, like Daredevil, things like that.
I think there was like there was a first series of them, which was they were all in Secret Wars, but then there was like you could get the Falcon, you could get a couple of others that Baron Zemo, I think you could get.
Yeah.
And I think that was like their attempt to sort of expand things a bit.
Yeah, of course. They were like, we need to sell more, so we need to be different.
And it kind of flopped a bit, I think, because there weren't any more Secret Wars figures after that.
So you actually went on to write for 2000 AD. Is that
right?
Yeah. How did that feel, that you went from this childhood wonderment of reading all these stories to actually creating those stories?
I mean, I guess I never even considered it as like a career option until I saw the submissions guidelines, which they still have up on their website for 2000 AD. They had this is how you get a Future Shock done. And because 2000 AD have the Future Shock, the tradition of starting new or newish writers off with these very short twist ending stories, it felt like this was like within my reach, that I could do this, send one off, and maybe it'd get accepted. And I think since I started 2000 AD, there's been one other person who's got in through the slush bar, but it's very rare that you do that. But that was how I got in, and then and that was I think the first story I submitted. I kind of submitted another one after that, and they were like, actually, we like this first one. Can you tinker with that and make it readable? But the basic idea is good. You just need to learn how to write comics.
Yeah.
And then after that, there was a solid year of no. And then eventually I kind of got another one through, and then it's slowly clawing your way up to
up the ladder,
getting a series, getting a little short series, then getting a longer series, then getting a Dread, and it's you're slowly there's definitely a ladder you have to
climb the.
I think it's a bit quicker to get to Dread these days. At the time, it felt like a big threshold I was crossing, but now I'm thinking it's more we really need some Dread. Can you think of a 6-page Dread?
Please give us more Dread. Everyone wants more Dread. Who doesn't? I mean, look at the Dreads here today.
Oh yeah. Oh well, they're always good. And they're always every time I see the Dread contingent turn up at one of these conventions, there's always a new one. There's always an SJS judge or a Brexit judge. Or I saw a Manchester judge walking.
Yeah, I saw that. And that was great.
He had the little bee.
Yeah,
and that was fantastic. I love that.
I love that stuff. That's another part of the conventions that they bring in so many different people, so many different ideas and unique ways of thinking.
It's fun. It's fun for everybody to kind of get together and have a chat.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
like we're doing now. So, guys, do we want to get on to Hulk?
Yeah, of course.
Tell us a little bit about Immortal Hulk. It's a very different from any iteration of Hulk before, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically we're going back to the Hulk's kind of roots in terms of the very first issues that came out with him, when it was basically a horror book, in that it was about this sort of rampaging creature who comes out at night, who's the dark side of this sort of... It's pitched that way right in the first issue as there's this mild-mannered scientist, but then inside him there's this dark side who kind of what's the exact phrasing? It's something he despises reason and worships power.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then it's it being the first issue of a comic in the 60s, it goes all over the place. It takes this left turn into bashing the Reds, but
very much so.
That's kind of the Hulk too. There's this sort of chaotic figure where you never know what you're going to get.
Well, he's like a gamma bomb, just kind of waiting to explode, isn't he?
Yeah, but you never know what kind of Hulk you're going to end up with. Yeah. And I think that's part of the appeal, is that he's so, unlike all the other heroes, he's so changeable. And even within this series itself, we started off and it was a certain thing, and everybody was very comfortable about. Everybody was the first 5 issues. Everybody was very kind of comfortable about like, oh, it's going to be this.
Yeah.
It's going to be this every month. Oh, this is good. This is what we want. It's going to be. And then it's like by issue 5, it was like it's changing slightly. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess it's going to get back to this. And then like, we by issue 13, we're like in hell talking about like Kamala and the kind of, the role of Satan there. It's like, and everybody's like, I don't know what's going on anymore.
Well, you even describe the Hulk in the books as like an engine of destruction or the engine of hell. People call him the devil and things like that.
There's a lot of kind of, it's not like a big religious, there's a lot of kind of religion in there, and that it's sort of, it's taking a lot of sort of stuff from childhood and from, I don't know, it's like with the Hulk, when something gets in my head, it's a place to kind of write that out. So like the religious stuff in there, it's just sort of one facet of this big soup of subconscious and like psychological stuff. I mean, on the one hand, I don't want to kind of sound too pretentious with it.
No, of course not.
But like, I don't want to make out like it's Sandman or something. But like, on the other hand, he's such a like psychological character. He's such a psychological monster that you've got to take all this stuff. I've started calling it on emails when I send stuff in, and it's got like some weird and disturbing stuff in. I talk about like it's the deep silt from the bottom of the dream tank, which is it's a line from Grant Morrison's Nameless. But like it's how I feel. You're just taking this. You're taking this muck from like the deep subconscious bits and like spreading it liberally everywhere to like add some extra to it, because I don't want it to be predictable. I don't want anybody to know what's coming next. Yeah. Even me. So
that's amazing.
It's kind of working. It's working out so far.
Yeah,
it's working out well. But that was the idea. We wanted to bring it back to that kind of horror roots, and we had a big advantage, a huge advantage, in that he was dead at the time.
Spoilers, everybody.
Bruce Banner had been killed. And I was in the room when they made that decision. It was a good decision. I was like, yes, kill him off. This is good. Always in the back of my mind thinking, I can bring him back later, Let him lay fallow. Like, it's never, ever hurt a character. Look at how popular Fantastic Four is.
Yeah.
It's never hurt a comic character to lay fallow for a couple of years.
They did it with Thor as well, didn't they? They killed all of Asgard.
And suddenly, Thor, like, went from being just this kind of middling to like, when's Thor coming back? And then like he came back and everybody's Thor's back.
And he's more popular than ever.
Yes, yeah. And it's like if you just it's like Farmers Fields. If you just let it lay fallow for a little bit, let people remember that they miss these characters, and it also gives you time to kind of think about like, what is it? What is the essence? What do people love? What do the writers love about these characters? So like it gives you kind of time to sort of have a think about them.
Get back to basics.
Yeah. And we were very lucky that we had that chance with. We weren't kind of like just popping on with a new number one and then everything about Bruce Banner is wrong. We built up that hunger. Because, there had been Hulk comics, but like it was a different Hulk, and like, people were after the old Hulk.
Yeah. The classic.
And, the classic Hulk. So we did get very lucky there. And because he was coming back from being dead, and not coming back from like, retirement or
exile or something,
being depowered or like, just being like, oh, phew, I'm not the Hulk anymore. Now it's your turn to be the Hulk. I'll just be here in the background as what it goes. They didn't do that. They killed him off. And that meant that we had our in terms of like the horror thing. We can just like, okay, he's coming back from the dead. Right there. That's a horror thing. That's our way in.
Did you take any? I'm a big horror movie fan. Did you take any inspiration from any particular horror movies?
We do now. When we started, it was I forget what the inspirations were like very early on. I think it was much creepier, the first things, and much more kind of disturbing. The idea was that we wouldn't see much smashing.
Yeah.
For the first, I think three issues or so, we wanted to like keep that
kind of off panel
simmering, and then like do a big just cut loose for the end of the first trade. But then Joe basically, I think he put in like an Easter egg, like in the hospital sequence, or like there's a sequence where like Walt Lankowski transforms into Sasquatch, and it's Very American Werewolf in London. And I was like, and he actually like added to that, because I just had a couple of like beats of like, his facing engaged and things. And like Joe made it a whole sequence. And I was like, oh wow, yeah, this looks really good. You're really into these movies. And he was like, yeah, because he was putting in these Easter eggs where like he was naming hospital wings after like famous SFX people.
Yeah.
And I was recognising it because I was like, oh yeah, no, that name, yeah, you're not referring to like Tom Savini there.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah. And it turns out he's this massive fan of John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yes, what a film.
And that pretty much informed everything since. It's like I try and make sure there's that Thing moment every so often for Joe. And like, things have kind of, that was I think the key that really sort of solidified, because we were getting on like a house on fire, but I think that kind of shared thing was like, that shared touchstone was like the thing that kind of really solidified
the working relationship.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, we both like body horror. We both like, let's put more of that in.
Yeah.
And now we kind of keep going back to that place every so often. And it's mostly so Joe can just really cut loose art-wise.
Well, he's a fantastic artist. If you've seen the book, he's phenomenal.
He's doing the work of his career right now,
Yeah,
I would say.
it's so. The Hulks never look more terrifying than this book. I will guarantee it. You were talking about kind of Easter eggs and stuff. And I've seen kind of, there are a few kind of, there's a reporter in it who's called McGee, is that right?
Jacky Mcgee, yeah.
Jacky McGee, which is reference to the TV show, isn't it?
It's an Easter egg. She's not really based on, I haven't seen enough episodes of the TV show to really base her on that character. I've sort of seen, I see it every so often. It's like, it's a Saturday morning thing. But like, because he was very kind of trying to prove the Hulk's existence. And we were kind of starting off with this thing where like nobody knew that the Hulk was alive, but there were sightings. And I was thinking, well, let's have a reporter like going around and trying to get the story on these sightings. And that ended up being Jacky, and we kind of like we ended up this thing where like we wanted to like give us some sort of driving force, and like so we had a thing where the Hulk smashed her house when she was just a kid, and like her dad basically, this is sort of between the lines stuff, but her dad basically died from the stress of trying to put their life back together. Wow. So the Hulk kind of killed her dad, but in this sort of indirect way where like he's technically not to blame, but it's like he kind of is, and it's like and Jacky's very kind of like sees the Hulk as sort of an example of power without consequence, right. Which is an outside perspective, given that Hulk readers will know that the Hulk does face some consequences. But from an outside perspective, he's just this big green monster who smashes things and walks away. And I mean, I think as she's sort of stayed in the book and as she's hung out with the Hulk, they've formed this weird quasi friendship. I feel like this is sort of an issue like yet to come, but there's this sort of, they kind of get along in like a way that's sort of not really spoken, but there's a sort of mutual understanding of like where they're coming from. And that's after the Hell issues. What her thing is now is that like she doesn't really want to be doing Hulk stories anymore because like it turns out it's really horrible and scary and she's got like PTSD from it. But like people want Hulk stories. And she's kind of carrying her entire newspapers, so she's got to go back out there and like. So it's sort of, it's nice that the dynamic is kind of evolving. So like we've gone from this very like the TV show, the Jack McGee, got to find the Hulk, got to kind of, got to expose the Hulk. Yeah. And we've gone to that to a more kind of like, this is. Okay, now how do I stop telling Hulk stories now?
I just can't stop.
Yeah.
A bit like yourself then, you just can't stop telling these stories.
Yeah, but I enjoy it. So it is different.
Great stuff. Speaking about kind of the Hulk history and Hulk kind of characters, do you have a favourite kind of run on the Hulk, favourite creator, or favourite type of Hulk? Yeah, there are so many. So many.
I mean, I'm a big fan of... Buzzing. I don't know if somebody's calling me or I'm just getting a lot of it's just getting a lot of text.
No worries.
Sorry, I was just going to hit the red button. Somebody calling. Hello.
I'm in a meeting.
Yeah. But favorite Hulk runs. I mean, when I was a kid, the Peter David run was just hitting.
Yeah.
It was Al Milgrom, who I don't think gets enough credit for bringing back the Grey Hulk. Because I started reading the Hulk again because. I sort of knew him from Secret Wars Night and from reprints, pocketbooks of those first 6 issues. And I knew him from, like, cartoons. There was the Hulk cartoon at the time. And, he was kind of, like, my favourite hero, but in this very sort of osmosis way that, like, I think kids have favourite superheroes these days, and they're, like, from the films, from cartoons, not really from comics. And that was kind of even back then, and that was like my experience with the Hulk. It's like I knew him from the wider culture. I didn't know him from like his comics. So when I started picking up Hulk comics, when like American comics became more available in newsagents, it was like the John Byrne Hulk. John Byrne was very popular at the time, and I was like, oh, he's on the Hulk.
Keith worked on that as well. Keith worked on those ones. Yeah, he worked on the John Byrne run of the Hulk. Yeah, he did the backgrounds and the inks and stuff. So
man, I did not know that.
You'll have to talk to him about it.
I'll have to. But like, but I remember like it was kind of, you know, it was fun, but like things really seemed to get interesting when like Al Milgrom came along, and suddenly there were like two Hulks, and that was exciting. That felt new, and then Peter David comes along and like just keeps going with it. There was not this. I feel like there's a sort of desire these days to sort of put the toys back in the toy box at the end of your
the end of your run.
I'm against that. I think you should leave the toys strewn around the playroom in a state of, and then make the next person deal with it.
Give them a harder job.
I've been told that's very rude of me. Like,
but I mean, you want
but that's how it was. That's how it was back in the day, and that's how the Peter David run was so seminal, because he was starting from this place of change, and he felt free to. I mean, I'd have to talk to him, but I'm assuming he felt free to like continue the changes and and he had a free hand to kind of do what he wanted. So you ended up with this very long, constantly evolving. A big reason to like pick up the Hulk was to see where it was going next. It wasn't like
he had 11 years on the book, didn't he?
Yeah. It wasn't like this thing where like, and I mean at the time everybody was doing that, but it's not like this thing where like Spider-Man will always be. You know, we've had a sort of thus far and no further with Spider-Man. And you know, especially with like the DC heroes, they're always getting like pushed back to like square one. But like that was part of the big draw, was like, where is it going next? You know, what is this going to turn into? And then before that, I discovered this kind of. I did read a few of these at the time they were coming out, but the Bill Mantlo stuff, I did read a couple of like the Hulk at the Crossroads issues, and like they were kind of interesting. But I was coming in like right in the middle of the story, at the part where the Hulk was at the most unrelatable. So like, you know, I kind of picked them up. I thought, oh, this is interesting, and then I kind of didn't bother keeping up with it. But like reading the Bill Mantlo Hulk is like a blog. It's really dark. Yeah. It's really like.
I think he introduced the child abuse angle and things like that.
Yeah, he brings the child abuse angle in. Like Bruce is just suicidal for most of it. You know, it's really. I mean, it's that kind of late 70s, early 80s. I want to say, let's say it might just be early 80s, but it's that early 80s thing of like everyone's very declamatory. Everybody's very poetical in their thing. It's, you know. Dialogue isn't naturalistic at all, but that just makes it more. That just brings out the tragedy and the kind of, and that's if you can get your hands on that run, that's a really interesting.
There's a great issue where the Hulk arrives in kind of Israel Palestine and deals with the conflict there.
Oh boy!
And it's all about the death of a young boy.
Yeah,
and it's absolutely tragic. And the Hulk's crying at the end of it, and he just doesn't understand why there's this war going on and there's this hatred between these two people.
That does sound like...
And it's a hell of an issue. I'll definitely track that one down if you can. Can't remember the issue exactly.
I was thinking more of like when the Hulk gets Bruce Banner's brain, because I've sort of read from that thing, but just watching the slow falling apart.
Yeah,
that was something I was missing slightly from Endgame. I was hoping we'd see more of. I understand, you know, Universal have their hooks into it.
They do, yeah.
And like he is like part of a team and a sort of background character, like other people's stories. Endgame's been out for a while, but I should probably stop talking about it because not everybody in this room will have seen it.
No, I mean the spoiler ban is lifted, but still people haven't seen it.
Yeah, so I should probably.
Yeah. Has everyone seen it? Have we all seen it? Okay, that's good. That's good. Speaking of that, I think we should open the questions up to everybody here. So, hands up. Who wants to go first? Yes.
I actually want to talk about the newer books, actually, if that's okay.
Sure.
I know that we've obviously been looking back at talking about the previous runs.
Yeah, sure.
But you've got a lot on your plate.
Yeah. I'm
13 titles.
Not 13 titles. That was actually revealed yesterday.
Yeah.
It's more 13 pages. Yeah, basically, what that is, and this has now been revealed, is that they're doing a special kind of 80th anniversary celebration book. And it's basically 80 years, 80 pages. Each page kind of represents a year of Marvel's publication history. So like, and I wrote about a quarter of that, basically to give it a spine, because there've been sort of big books of like one-page stories before, and like I think for this they really wanted like a through line, so it wasn't just like a potpourri, but they wanted a through line. They wanted like a new character to come out of it. They wanted like some new toys to play with, basically, to kind of come out of it. For my part, I really like the puzzle element of taking, Marvel's publication history and like turning it into a story and sort of. So I've ended up doing a whole bunch of one-page stories that interlock and fit together into, basically, from my perspective, it's a one-off. So it's not it probably took about 3 times as long to write.
I was just going to say, how far are you into the writing of it?
Oh, the writing is done. Every one of those one pages has been written. Now they need to be dialogued because the art is coming in. Yeah, they've all been written. I think it's a good story. I feel like I managed to keep that kind of the modular nature of the one pages and have them like interlocked, so to make a big story. But it's not I'm not sure why they kind of advertised it as if I was writing the entirety of Marvel, because that's just weird. They could have just dropped my name the once. I don't know why they did it that way.
I found it interesting that you also had all these separate artists that were involved for your separate sections. How's it been to kind of deal with all of those different approaches to art?
It's been a joy, because I just do the way it works is that I do the kind of one page, and very occasionally I'll say something like, this would be a good one for Christian Wood, or like, but mostly I send the page through to Tom. He takes a look at it and goes, do you know it'd be a good fit for that? This person. And that's sort of my involvement done. So, I mean, I guess the hard part is just artist proofing all of these like one pages, so they could go to anybody, and then letting editorial be editorial and do that side and kind of place the scripts with the right artists. And what's come back has just been absolutely except for the one I did for Judge Perez. I knew I was doing that one for Judge Perez, and that was extremely frightening because he is a legend. And the art's come back now, and I've taken one look at it, and I've thought I need to cut my dialogue by about 60%. I don't want to hide any of that underneath the speech balloon, but I have to.
Anybody else with questions?
Yep.
All the work you've done over the years, what have you been most proud of and regretted doing?
Oh, wow.
Big question.
Regretted probably that Ninja series I did for Dynamite. Apologies if anybody really liked that, but that came out of quite a compromised place for me, and I don't think I managed to save it from its basic premise. So yeah, it's got my name on it. It always will have. It's not great. Again, very sorry if that is your favourite work of mine. But yeah, that's the one I regret. If I had it all to do again, I'd probably not do that. Which I could say, because I don't think I'm going back there. But like, in terms of the thing I'm proudest of, I think it might be Hulk. I think what I'm doing right now, I feel like I'm very happy with myself. I'm very happy that I've managed to write a book that actually sells. I mean, that's a milestone to like have something that's like up there in the, and doing really well for retailers. Because generally my stuff is kind of like, it's got a little niche following and then it gets cancelled. But so this is a big thing for me. So yeah, I guess in terms of like, and also I'm proud of it on a creative level as well. I feel like I've gotten better in a way that is visible with that. I feel like I've sort of pushed myself a bit and I've done better. Before that, I'd say the thing I was probably proudest of would be, I think maybe the Ultimates, because I really enjoyed doing that, and I thought that came out very well. But I think right now, it's Hulk. Hulk is the thing that I'm proudest of.
Any other questions, guys? Oh, yeah, there we go.
Is there much pressure from editorial to make a Hulk that will kind of be crossovers and part of the main?
Absolutely not. They've been really good. I put that in the pitch that I don't want to do crossovers or tie-ins. I put that in as part of the like, this is how we're going to make this book a success by not doing that. And they've been really great about like, okay. And every time there's like a big event and it's like, we'd really like the Hulk to be part of this. Do you want to do a separate one-off? And that's good, because that's kind of the best of both worlds, because it means that we've got this book that never has a banner on it, never has like a thing where people get taken out of the story and into another story. You can, if you want to, buy just the one comic forever, and that'll be the Hulk, and that's all you need. But we've also, if you want extras, we have extras, but they're never like, you have to buy these, or, you're like, you're not going to get the full strike. It's never that. And I think that's a good balance to kind of strike, because we sort of road tested this a little bit with the Defenders thing, because that was basically, I was thinking of that in terms of like annuals. Like, you don't need to buy annuals, but they're extras. And there are a couple of people who are like, oh, I thought Hulk was going to have no tie-ins. This is technically a tie-in. And it's like, people very quickly kind of understood that, like, no, it's not really. It's like, you can see where it would fit in. It's not necessary. You can't completely ignore it, and you'll lose nothing. So I guess that's the balance we're trying to get. And I don't know, it's sort of experimental territory at the minute. It's not the way things have been done lately. And the thing is that tie-ins still work. They still sell. People still buy them. People still go for them. But I guess what we're proving with Immortal Hulk is that there is this other option, that we can do it this way, and it'll do well. And, you know, we've sort of disproven the idea that tie-ins are, like, necessary, as opposed to just being fun. So, you know, I've editorially been great. They've been great all over the Hulk. They've been, like, really, from the start, they've just been really accommodating in terms of, like, letting us do what we want to do and letting us have that. And part of that is because it's been successful, that, like, we've got a lot of rope to hang ourselves with. And part of that is, yeah, I think you know, I've earned, at this point, I've earned a level of trust, and the rest of the team have earned a level of trust, and we're sort of being allowed to kind of have our heads a little bit.
Anybody? You got another one?
Yeah, it does seem to be the main goal for artists and writers to get a creator-owned book.
Well, I can't announce anything yet, but paperwork has been done. And yeah, basically, I will have a creator-owned thing coming out in the near future that I'll properly announce, I think, when we're ready to, which should probably be the company. We're working with a publisher, and it'll probably be the publisher going, like, now.
So you can't say a publisher, can't say who's going.
No, yeah, I'm not really comfortable. I'm not comfortable doing that.
There's only a couple really that you can.
I mean, it's one of those.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not super comfortable like talking about it beyond reassuring people that yes, I am doing a creator-owned thing. But you know, you'll hear more about that. I think we're just looking at the letter, isn't it? Yeah. You know, by the time it announces, we'll have the full team. And yeah, it's going to be. It's going to be good. It's going to be a fun thing. It's sort of it's a science fiction-y thing.
Last couple of questions, then we'll have to finish off. Anybody got any more? Yes, young man.
Did you enjoy the Hulk Daredevil crossover?
The Hulk Daredevil crossover?
Yeah, there was a comic book on, I think, a few volumes where Daredevil and Hulk worked together.
I'm trying to remember. Was that Mark Waid?
Indestructible Hulk? Because he was doing Daredevil and Hulk at the same time. I think it was the Mark Waid one. Yeah. Yeah.
If you're talking about the Mark Waid stuff, he's always good. I remember reading that whole period and kind of like really, really being into it. But I think I know his Daredevil run at that time was just really something special.
It was good.
So like, I think I can't remember it, I'd be lying if I said I remembered it, but I think I would have read it at the time and I would have enjoyed it, if that's what you mean.
Last question, anybody?
Yep.
Will Zombo be coming back to 2000 AD?
I'd like him to. It's the problem lies with me because I'm really, really busy all the time. And, you know, Henry's not short of work himself. We've talked about it. We've sort of discussed it. But it's like every book of Zombo kind of takes longer to gestate and get to it gets more difficult the more of it we do. I don't know. I would like to get Henry. I want to at some point, if I can, get Henry on the Hulk for like a guest issue. That is a plan I have. And maybe once we start working together again, we'll sort of start brainstorming and, you know, maybe there'll be more Zombo. But there's definitely room for more Zombo, and we'd like to do more Zombo. And eventually, 2000 AD will get somebody else to do Zombo. So one way or another, you'll get more of it. If I delay any longer, they'll bring somebody else. I don't know if they would or not, but
yeah,
they might.
Fair enough. Actually, got time for one more. If anyone wants to squeeze one in quick. No, I don't think so.
Oh,
just the last minute.
What's your favourite artist that you've worked with?
Oh boy! I mean, this is an evil question because but like, I mean, I'll run off just off the top of my head, and apologies to any artist I'm omitting. Obviously, working with Joe is fantastic, so I love working with him. I love working with him and Wright. Working with Lee on Loki was a wonderful thing. Kenneth Rockefeller on Ultimates. And Travel Foreman afterwards, actually. They had their different styles, but they were both like really amazing and they always delivered these amazing, wonderful, surprising pages. Pre-Marvel, Paco Medina. I'm just listing every artist I've worked with. Paco Medina, always love working with him. Henry, obviously, I've had a good time every time I work. Simon Fraser. I'm trying to think. John Davis Hunt. I enjoyed working with him. It's been really fascinating watching him on the Wildstorm because, that's you can see he's leveled up a bit. There are artists I'd like to work with, which might be a fairer question for me because then I can kind of not leave anyone out. I wouldn't mind. I'd love to work with Jamie McKelvey sometime on something. I know. It'd have to be something quite short. And I know he's got his own projects to think about. But, so I'd love to work with him. I'd love to work with... I'm trying to think of somebody who's not in the Marvel 1000 book as well. Because, I have worked with a lot of people. But,
Rachel Stark?
Sorry?
Rachel Stark?
Oh, God, yeah. No, yeah, I'd love to work with Rachel. She's great. Duncan Figueiredo. One day I'd like to do something with Duncan Figueiredo. So, So that would be good.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a good place to
end
end
it. Good place to start.
Give Al Ewing a massive round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Al.